Welcome back, everyone, and today is a manga review ASMR. This time it is Land of the Lustrous Volume 1. This is a series that I hold very dear because it's amazing, and I personally have seen it in the anime and then continued on reading the manga. So I may have to get like a refresher as I flip through it, but for the most part I will be able to explain to y'all the plot of it. So let's get started. If you've seen my recent manga haul, then you will know more or less what this is about. But as a warning to anyone that has not read or watched either versions of this series, then there will be spoilers. I am literally walking you through this volume and reviewing it. So first of all, I want to review Kodansha's release. I'm starting to notice that with a lot of the manga that I receive, it has kind of this similar texture, kind of glossy style to the cover. I get a lot of defects in the spine, like it'll be a little bit torn. This volume's okay, but a later volume had the issue, and it makes me wonder if Kodansha Comics and the other publishers use the same manufacturer. So here's the back of this beautiful manga book. It says Searching for Purpose. Here we have Sensei. We'll learn who he is when I start opening the book. Praise for the manga. And it is by Haruko Ichikawa. So Haruko Ichikawa was born on November 22nd, 1980. She is very famous for her short stories. They always have this kind of otherworldly philosophical themes to them. She began her manga career in 2006 with a one-shot called Star Lover. She then began to publish other one-shots in the magazine Monthly Afternoon, which I believe were later compiled into individual collections. In 2012, October, she started writing Land of the Lustrous, and it has since continued publishing with critical acclaim. She's won multiple prizes, including one in 2010 named the Tezuka Osamu Cultural Prize, which, not for Land of the Lustrous, it was for something else. But if that name does not ring a bell, Tezuka Osamu is like the Disney of Japan. So that's pretty big. Good for her. She's also, I believe, been hired to do character designs in certain like games. I think I remember seeing a mobile game that hired her to make character designs for an event or something. And I'm browsing through her Wikipedia, and it says she was hired to design Pokemon Sun and Moon and character designs in Pokemon Sword and Shield. So that's really cool, and it's a testament to, despite, not really having much out there compared to a lot of prolific and famous mangaka, her style is just so recognizable and pretty that people trust her. They trust her skill. Alright. So Land of the Lustrous is really a story about your purpose in life, and it has a lot of Buddhist and religious themes that, to be quite honest, kind of blew over my head when I first read it. I first watched it, I mean. It wasn't until I started reading the manga that they really popped out, because when you watch the anime, I was kind of distracted by the visuals and the music and the action. To me, it was more of a character study, and I wasn't really paying attention to the other themes other than the obvious ones, which is being the runt of the litter and trying to find your place in society. So the book has this lovely colored art piece, and if you've never seen the anime, there is a short trailer, because when the announcement for the anime came out, they were originally going to do 2D animation, so it would have looked very similar to this. And here is a very cool group shot. I will unfortunately not remember everyone's name, so I may just start pointing to people. But I think most, if not all, the characters on this sheet I remember from the anime, and later on in the manga. They have some significance at some point, except for this one. I don't remember this Lily character. Looks like a flower protruding from their neck. But that might happen. Because her style is so simple, I tend to confuse them. Oh, look at False Terrible. Sometimes I tend to confuse some characters because of the style. So this volume starts out, I believe how the anime starts out as well. We have this character looking for Phos, which is short for the full name of the gem that they represent, phospholite. This is Morga, and that's Goshen. So I am not someone who really pays attention to minerals, so again, I may forget these names as I go along. But they basically call phospholite over because Sensei is asking for them. And Sensei, at this point in the manga, is just considered their caretaker, their teacher. He is the one that, when they are born, basically explains to them how the world works. So the manga actually starts out with Sensei telling Phos, well, first of all, it does a very good job of introducing you the main conflict of the story in a couple pages. It's only 10 pages in, and we already see the enemy and kind of what their jobs are. But Phos, and we have a really cool action sequence. They also reveal kind of what they're used once the gems are captured by the Lunarians. I feel like I'm like spoiling everything, and we're only a few pages in. I apologize. So they fight, and then we cut back to Sensei explaining to Phos that he has a job for them. We cut back to Phos with Sensei explaining to them that they have a job for them, because everyone in their current society has a job. And at this point, Phos does not. It's explained later that the reason for this is that they're too brittle. So because these beings take after the gems they represent, some of them have certain hardness. So these two fighting the Lunarians have enough hardness to where they can stand a chance without easily breaking. Phos, although these characters don't have genders. So although Phos would like to fight, they can't because they're too brittle. They just wouldn't be smart. So Sensei has a job for them. I have a bookmark in there, I apologize. And he is explaining, or asks them to recite what they were taught when they were first born, and that is the explanation of how the world came to be. So here we have a lot of exposition in just the first few pages, yet there's no walls of text, which I think is brilliant. Reading long, detailed exposition in manga can get very tiring, and I love how this author managed to give us so much information with so little words. And you'll notice that as you read the manga, they do such a good job portraying the story with so little words. But yes, Foss then explains to us, the viewer, to Sensei, that at this point the Earth has been hit by meteors about 6 times, which means you can kind of consider the story as an apocalypse story where it's life after life ended. But instead of it being caused by wars or anything direct, it's just implied that the world evolved as it tends to do. It was hit by meteors, it came back, it was hit again, and the cycle continued until life evolved to what it is now, where most living creatures escaped to the sea. These creatures that went to the sea were then consumed by microscopic organisms and then reborn as inorganic substances. And then after a long time, if you know basic, I wouldn't say chemistry, but mineral history, a lot of what ends up in the ocean eventually turns to sand. So, similarly, all of these organic beings that went to the ocean eventually evolved to become the gems, or crystals. They rose as crystals. And I just love that imagery. But in this world they have hunters that come from the moon and turn them into decorations, as you saw. So they all have designated fighters to fight them off. Here he tells her that she can't fight because she's too brittle. So the fight with those previous 2 characters has ended. You see they're being collected. First of all, that's frightening. Imagine being collected. So Sensei comes back, and he's a very strict Sensei. He loves them, but he also understands that they make mistakes when they really shouldn't be, because this is their life on the line. So as he berates them, Foss shatters because she is that brittle. So then Sensei helps eradicate the Lunarians. They collect the pieces of their comrades. And this entire introduction is basically exposition, explaining how exactly they lived through all this. They can be glued back together. All of their memories and their personality and who they are is in their gem pieces. So long as they are glued together, they will be fine. So we have more of Foss expressing that they would really like to fight. And because they're the only one that really doesn't have a job in their society, they feel very lonely. Someone tells them to go look for someone called Cinnabar, who might relate to their plight. So Cinnabar is a type of gem that they excrete an unending supply of silver venom that collects what little light there is and makes it possible for Cinnabar to stay up and alert all night long. So I apologize. I explained a lot of stuff over here about gem biology. Primarily that they use the light as a life source. They don't have organs or anything like that, so their only really power generator is the light, sunlight. So they go to sleep at night, all except for Cinnabar, because of their compound. They are able to stay awake at night. This results in them being unable to really associate with the other gems because they're always alone at night, patrolling for Lunarians, who don't really show up at night either. And the venom that they excrete is dangerous to the other gems due to its acidity. They explain that it gets out of control sometimes, so Cinnabar is kind of the outcast, both unwillingly and willingly. They know they're dangerous. They know they have a job, so they stay knit only. And here is where Phosphorylite, and Cinnabar meet. So Cinnabar is very self-hating because of who they are. They actually express that they want to be taken, but they cannot, because why would the Lunarians want them when their compound is like that? So we have their meeting. Cinnabar expresses that they don't want to help. Oh, I apologize. I just realized I didn't explain to y'all what Foss's job was. So Sensei asked them to create an encyclopedia of their entire society and the history of the world. But Foss doesn't really know where to start, and that's why she was asking around for someone to talk to about that, or about more information on the Lunarians. So after this encounter, Foss sees how lonely Cinnabar is, and they promise to give them a special job. So here is where Cinnabar expresses that they want to be taken. They just don't see any purpose in their existence. And it's very sad because, I mean, they're very powerful. And this is where it's kind of established what Foss's main goal is, which is to find a job that only Cinnabar can do, so that they don't feel so suicidal. And it's this decision that drives Foss to kind of explore the existence of everything in our world. Why do the Lunarians want them? What does Sensei know about them? They encounter many experiences and people, not people, but creatures that slowly start to make them question everything. And it's all very interesting. More character introductions. We are introduced to Diamond, and Diamond herself, or themselves, have some issues as well. So the way the gems fight, they tend to have partners, and Diamond's partner is Bort. Are they on the cover? Yeah. So that's Bort, and they're like the best fighter. You know, in My Hero Academia, Bakugo is considered the best fighter. Well, this is Bort, and they are the Bakugo of Land of the Lustrous. Kind of have their attitude as well. They really don't like the weak. And when Diamond gets a little cracked, they're berated by Bort for being stupid enough to have such a high density body almost as hard as board, and yet allowing themselves to be cracked and overpowered by the Lunarians. So here we have Diamond about to get taken until Board shows up. And I do admit, Board is really cool. I love their hair and their design overall. But you can tell they are really, like, look at the framing. It's just so cool. So simple, but very impactful. So Diamond also has some self-confidence issues. A lot of the gems in this series need a lesson in self-love, and they get it, but not in a good way. So this is the introduction to some of the character arcs between other side characters. So the Lunarians showed up again, which is shocking to them. But they completely ignored him, so they're wondering why. And it's because Sensei, at this point I don't believe it's revealed that he's a, spoiler alert, a robot. But he is not human. He just looks human. But he's also not a gem. But because he's so old, he does need to take naps every now and again. And when he takes one, he cannot be woken up. So the Lunarians are using this time to try and attack. However, a random Nautilus shell falls into their dwelling, which is like a giant school. And they're wondering what the heck. This shell turns out to be acidic, so it can eat them and melt them basically, and Foss gets caught up in it and they start to melt. And here is I think where you're really introduced to the fact that despite all of these gems living together, and I would say consider each other as siblings, a lot of them are very detached from each other, and they don't carry emotions towards the death of a teammate as much. Like, certain partnerships will have characters that really mourn for their partners and are very devastated to lose them, and then others are just like, well, they were always the runt of the litter, so dang, that sucks, they're dead, but oh well. And that's kind of how everyone feels about Foss getting melted. Except for Diamond. Diamond is the only one that really, I think, cared about Foss being melted. So, they're still trying to fight this snail creature until eventually I think it falls into a little pond or connection to the ocean near their house, and out of it comes a little snail creature that Diamond takes a liking to. It's so cute. Look at it. Because in this world, I believe jellyfish are one of the main creatures that they have actually living in their society. I don't really remember other creatures other than some major ones popping up. So they're not really sure what the creature is. They want to dissect it, but Diamond insists that it might be phospholite. take it upon themselves to, try and find a way to get them back. And this is where a really good way to introduce some other gems that look better, or live with them as well. That's gorgeous. Look at this. I believe this last chapter is Cinnabar. Diamond tries to confront Cinnabar and asks them about Phospholite and how they can help. But Cinnabar is very cruel and says, "Good riddance." However, something they say gives Diamond an idea. Because when Phospholite was melted into the shell, little shards of the color of their gem popped up on the outside of it. So Diamond goes back and they actually managed to rebuild it. So the animal is something completely different. However, it turns out Phospholite can understand it. Possibly from being melted into the substance of the shell. Some of the minerals in it were absorbed into her pieces when it came out as part of the shell. And now she can understand the little animal. Oh, there's extras. I've never read these. That's cute. Here I have some translation notes, and then some information on the gags and jokes that really only work for Japanese language. But that is volume 1 of Land of the Lustrous. It doesn't seem like much. You're introduced to their world, how the gems function, and what their current purpose is in their lives and current society. And then you're introduced to the antagonists, and you're given a small piece of an extension to the world they live in the form of that little animal. I think it does a really good job of introducing you to the main conflicts and themes of the manga. You're given relationships, character arcs, and world building, as well as a mystery. I can see why tons of people jumped on this manga when they read the first volume. Or even the first chapter. It was fairly long, I want to say. So I really do enjoy this manga, and I hope y'all enjoyed this review. I believe there is 10 or 11 volumes out right now of this series. I own majority of them, so I will definitely be continuing this series for Land of the Lustrous. But I warn y'all, it gets a little depressing and it doesn't hit as hard you can, I'll have to double check. I watch this series on Amazon Prime. I don't shop on Amazon anymore, so I don't have that anymore. So I ended up buying the Steelbook when it came out. So I own this. I'm not sure if Amazon still has it up there, but that's where you can watch it. And if not, the streaming sites are always an option. Illegal ones. But I do recommend this series. It's so nice. And there is a Spanish dub to this, to the anime, which is cool. I really hope that once Beastars is finished, Studio Orange, which is the one that animated the first season, continues it. There was a Figma figure planned to be released for Phospholite, our main character, when the anime first came out, but unfortunately there has been no update on the project and it is considered dead. There wouldn't be incentive to make it, which is a real shame because it's one that I would have definitely bought if the prototype looked cool. The fight scenes are very memorable in Land of the Lustrous, and I would have loved to be able to pose Foss in some of those fighting stances. But with no new anime, they really don't have incentive. So I don't see them going back to that project anytime soon. And I've lost hope. So I really hope we get a second season at some point. Again, this is a manga that I highly recommend. So if you're interested, I bought mine from rightstuffanime.com, but I'm sure it's available other places as well. So again, I hope y'all enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video.